Chapter 1017, Might as well rob. While showing it, he smiled and said, "Can you all see clearly? This is written by Li Zhenyu himself. The handwriting is his, and there is Li family's seal on it. Everyone here please see it clearly, lest Li family refuse to admit it later and say that our young master is blackmailing them." Most of the people who could live in the vicinity of the Li family were big families in Yangon City. They were not afraid of the Li family and were even willing to watch the Li family make a fool of themselves. So when Bai Hu asked, they immediately laughed and echoed loudly. The old man of the Li family looked pale, and he couldn't speak for a long while. At this moment, a majestic voice came from behind. "Ching'an, what happened?" The old man turned his head and saw the visitor, and he immediately said in surprise, "Patriarch, they are here to make trouble. They claim that Zhenyu owes them crystal stones and we must pay them back." What came out was a middle-aged man who looked younger than the old man, but he seemed to have an extraordinary vibe. His cultivation was obviously extremely high. Many people immediately recognized the identity of this person. He was Li Zongming, the patriarch of the Li family and the father of Li Zhenyu. As Li Zongming heard this, he glanced at Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng with a cold gaze and said coldly, "You two break into my Li family and cause trouble. What are your intentions?" Bai Hu dug his ear and said impatiently, "Do you people of the Li family understand human language? Didn't I just say clearly enough? Li Zhenyu owed our young master crystal stones, so we are here to collect debts." The old man Li Chengan, who came out earlier, approached Li Zongming and whispered the amount on the debt note and the ins and outs of the matter in his ear. Li Zongming's eyes widened slightly, and his face turned gloomy. He gritted his teeth after a long while. "How do you prove that this debt note was written by Zhenyu? It is clear that you are working with the Chang'e gambling house to blackmail our Li family. This is simply ridiculous. If you get lost now, I can still let you go, ha 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 ha." Before Li Zongming could finish his words, Bai Hu had already laughed and interrupted him. He turned to the people at the gate, "See? I told you earlier that Li family will refuse to admit it. He even said that the Chang'e gambling house forged this debt note. Chang'e gambling house was able to forge Li Zhenyu's handwriting, and they also forged the seal of your Li family." Immediately, he put away his smile and coldly, "Whether this debt note is real, can't we make it clear after Patriarch Li let Li Zhenyu confront us?" Li Zongming was infuriated hearing the ridicule of the crowd. He said bluntly, "Zhenyu fell from the city wall that day because of you guys. Now, he is recuperating in the Yunlan sect. If you want to find him, wait a few months." Bai Hu was amused by the shamelessness of the Li family. He didn't smile, but he released a faint murderous intent. "Then does Elder Li mean that you don't want to pay the debt?" Li Zongming sneered, showing an inexplicable debt note, "And you want us Li family to pay such a large number of crystal stones? In your dream. You might as well rob us." Bai Hu sneered and said slowly, "Elder Li is really smart. How do you know that we are going to rob?" Chapter 1018, Whoever got hit knew the pain, but everyone present, including the spiritual pets, wasn't bothered by this. Bai Hu even squinted and smiled. "It seems that Li family is really poor. They can't even pay the crystal stones they owe. Little Egg, what if they don't have the money? Wouldn't we lose a lot?" Little Egg immediately clutched his little paw and said without hesitation, "Isn't that easy? If they don't have money, just pay the debt with items. Comrades, let's go. Let's take all the treasure in this house, all of them." With that said, without waiting for everyone's reaction, his little pink body had already rushed forward like a cannonball. Bai Hu wanted to ask what "comrades" meant, but Little Egg had already run far away. Because Little Egg rushed out, Little Golden Dragon, Purple Abyss Vine and Mo Xiaodu rushed out immediately without hesitation. Only the best-behaved Shaoli and the unresponsive little dumb cow remained in place. Li Zongming's face was distorted by their arrogant faces, but he didn't feel much fear for them in his heart. Although the two in front of him were both at the gold core stage, the Li family had 5 gold core stage cultivators. Even if Li Zhenyu was currently recovering from injuries, there were still 4 at the gold core stage later stage. As for the remaining few spiritual pets and women who didn't seem threatening, they wouldn't take them seriously. They want to cause trouble in my Li family with just these few guys? They are simply ignorant. Li Zongming jumped up. A long sword appeared in his hand as he rushed toward Gu Lufeng. He had already seen that Gu Lufeng had the highest cultivation among them, almost comparable to him. As long as he killed Gu Lufeng first, the remaining people were simply not his opponent at all. Gu Lufeng stood on the spot leisurely, he smirked slightly. The peach blossom eyes under the mask were gleaming as if they were shining with a different kind of light. Just when Li Zongming's sword was about to pierce Gu Liufeng's heart, suddenly there was a bang from the tip of the sword. The flying sword seemed to have hit an iron stone, and it bent and broke abruptly. Before Li Zongming realized what had happened, a huge shadow already appeared in front of him. Little Dumb Cow's body had grown for 100 times, then he used the most primitive attack, headbutt, on Li Zongming's head. Bang! With a loud noise, Li Zongming only felt dizzy. The spiritual power shield that he cast shook for a while. Under the intense pain in his internal organs, he spouted a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. But, how could Little Dumb Cow let him go so easily? The huge body bounced on the ground like a ball. It rushed into the air, then it landed quickly, pressing on Li Zongming again. Li Zongming seemed to hear the sound of his bones breaking, and he spouted a mouthful of blood. Finally, he couldn't take it and fainted. At this moment, everyone in the Li family was in a mess. They didn't pay attention to Mo Xiaotu and the spiritual pets at all, they just wanted to focus on dealing with Gu Lufeng and Bai Hu. But when they really fought, they found out that they were wrong. Throughout the battle, Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng both stood leisurely and watched the show. It was the group of little guys who actually fought. Little Dumb Cow knocked out Li Zongming, who was at the gold core stage later stage. Mo Xiaotu's fist, whoever got hit knew the pain. Chapter 10:19, Turned upside down. The most ruthless was actually Xiao Li, who had the cutest look. This was Xiao Li's first real battle after coming out of the secret realm. She tried to prove that she had other strengths in addition to using illusion. When those guards of the Meridian stage and Foundation establishment stage just got close to her, they were blown back instantly and fainted right away. In just a short time, the entire Li family was actually turned upside down. Even the remaining 2 gold core stage elders were defeated by Little Golden Dragon and Little Purple. They tied them together and threw them on the ground. Little Egg and the other little ones rushed into the Li family happily, searching every inch of the Li family's corners and keeping all the valuables into the storage ring. Little Purple searched everyone in Li family and confiscated all of their storage rings. Li Zongming had already woken up at this time. Seeing such a mess in his eyes, all the Li family's disciples had been stripped, he really wanted to faint again. "Father, what happened?" Li Jianyu's voice came from outside the door. Seeing such a mess in the Li family, he couldn't help exclaiming. Bai Hu, who was counting the treasures that Little Purple looted, heard Li Jianyu's voice and raised his head. He said with a half-smile, "Oh, Elder Li. I thought you had run to the Yunlan sect to avoid the debt." Li Jianyu saw Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng and quickly recognized their identities. Thinking of the humiliation and embarrassment Shi Yu had caused him on the city wall, new hatred and old hatred suddenly surged up together. "Bai Hu, Gu Lufeng, why are you doing this? You guys won the medical skill match and earned the fame and fortune, but now you even come to trouble my Li family. Don't you think this is too much? Too much." Bai Hu sneered as he took out the debt note and shook it. "We are just here to collect what we deserve. How is it too much?" Li Jianyu's face changed drastically when he saw the debt note in Bai Hu's hand. At first, he knew that Nangong Yu had bet a lot of crystal stones on Shi Yu. He thought they were trying to help Shi Yu gain momentum, and he was full of disdain for their behavior. In addition, Lu Zhishi intentionally talked about this in front of him with a sad face. Li Jianyu wanted to please Zhishi, so he wrote a debt note to increase Lu Zhishi's win rate again. In addition to helping Lu Zhishi build momentum and allowing rumors about Shi Yu to spread better, it was also because Li Jianyu believed that Lu Zhishi would definitely win. He was badly injured on the city wall and lost all his face, so he had forgotten the existence of this debt note. Now seeing the debt note in Baihu's hand, he immediately looked shocked. The number of crystal stones was simply a sky-high price. If he really wanted to pay it back, he probably needed to dismantle the entire Li family and exchange it for money. However, if Li family was dismantled and lost all funds, what was left of Li Zhenyu? Thinking of this, Li Zhenyu immediately gritted his teeth and said, I don't know anything about this debt note. You don't know? Baihu sneered, hee, it doesn't matter to us whether young Master Li knows it or not. We just want to confirm that the seal belongs to the Li family. Since young Master Li wants to renege, we will just take all the things in the Li family to pay the debt. Chapter 10:20, What's left? You dare. Li Zhenyu's face turned pale in horror. Then he looked at the mess in his home and his father's dying look, his body trembled suddenly. At this moment, Little Egg and Mo Xiaotu had searched everything and ran out happily. Mo Xiaotu said, Baihu, their marble is made of green jade. I heard from my grandfather that green jade can be used to make inscribed jade slip, which is of good value, so I dug out their floors and took them away. Baihu immediately smiled and praised, Little Rabbit is really smart, well done. When we return, I will let young master cook you a good meal. Mo Xiaotu immediately smiled delightedly. Little Egg held his face with his paw and smiled, they have planted a lot of precious spiritual grass in their backyard. I have pulled out all the spiritual grass. I believe Mom will like it. Shaoli also got together with Little Egg and said in a gentle voice, I also helped Auntie Little Purple to collect storage rings. I haven't missed any of them. Auntie Little Purple, right? The purple vine shook immediately, and she affectionately touched Shaoli's little face. Li Zhenyu, who listened to their conversation, felt dizzy and barely fainted on the ground. Storage rings, spiritual grass, and even the green jade bricks, these people have taken them all. What is left in the Li family? What is left for me, Li Zhenyu? Asshole, I will fight to the death with you. Li Zhenyu screamed. He even forgot to take out his spiritual weapon, and he rushed toward Baihu frantically. Baihu didn't even move, but the purple vine rose up into the sky and whipped at Li Zhenyu's chest. Li Zhenyu's ribs that healed just now made a crackling sound, and he flew out directly and collapsed to the ground. Baihu laughed and waved his hand, since we have collected the debt, let's go back. The little ones responded in unison, each with their heads up and their chests tall, they seemed indescribable domineering. Gu Lufeng slowly followed behind a few people and shook his head with a smile, but after walking a few steps, he suddenly turned around and looked at Li Zongming. Li Zongming was sinisterly looking at Little Golden Dragon, Little Dumb Cow and the others. Gu Liufeng's eyes dimmed. He frowned slightly, then he revealed a hint of sneer before catching up with Baihu and the others. In Tiangang Kingdom's Yangon City, the medical skills match between Heshi and Fairy Zhishi was known to everyone. But in the remote Jinling Kingdom's Yanjing City, many people didn't know anything about this. At this time, Feng Yunjing was also entering Yanjing City. It was just that compared to when they came, they all disguised themselves. On the streets of Yanjing City, 3 soldiers lined up patrolling from time to time. These soldiers were wearing black armor with distinctive signs. Feng Yunjing recognized them as the Iron Kirin soldiers of King of Hell at a glance, and they were called Iron Kirin, the first elite army of the Miluo continent. A middle-aged man next to Feng Yunjing gently stroked his long beard and said in a deep voice, it seems that the news is right. The King of Hell mansion has now completely controlled the entire Yanjing city. Even the Imperial Guard who is in charge of protecting Yanjing city has also been replaced by Iron Kirin. Chapter 10:21, I'm Zhu Que. Feng Yunjing looked ugly when he heard that. He gritted his teeth and said with hatred, Humph. What King of Hell, he is just a kid in his early 20s. If it weren't for my father and elders stopping me from going against the King of Hell mansion, can Nangong you control Yanjing city? The middle-aged man saw his volume increased and his spiritual power with murderous intent had attracted the attention of Iron Kirin soldiers not far away. He quickly stretched out his hand to hold Feng Yunjing, and he whispered, "Young master, please calm down. After all, Nangong Yu is just a powerless high-rank martial artist. With his ability, he can only dominate a small country. To our Feng family, he is nothing at all." The words of the middle-aged man made Feng Yunjing's complexion look a lot better, and his spiritual power calmed down. Upon seeing this, the middle-aged man hurriedly continued, "But young master should know that your biggest enemy right now is not Nangong Yu, but the young master who can return to the Feng family anytime." Feng Yunjing's eyes were cold, and he said 3 words coldly, "Feng Yunzhao. Don't even dream of coming back. I will never give him this opportunity." The middle-aged man saw his look, and he quickly convinced, "So young master, we must not make mistakes in our mission this time. We must control Xingde Hall and Shiyu and the Hans of our Feng family. As for this mere Yanjing city, young master, let me tell you the truth, compared to Xingde Hall and the best quality pills behind it, even the entire Jinling kingdom is nothing. Why should the young master compete with a king of hell for a small town?" Feng Yunjing's gaze swept over the Iron Kirin soldiers, and he snorted, "I know, no need to say more. Let's go to Xingde Hall now." The two went all the way toward Xingde Hall. At this time, both of them were wearing inconspicuous costumes, and Feng Yunjing's hair had drooped down from the front, covering his remarkable face. It seemed to outsiders that these were just 2 of the most common foreign tourists who wants to go to Xingde Hall to buy medicinal pills. After turning around a corner, Feng Yunjing saw Xingde Hall right in front of him. Suddenly, a figure suddenly pounced on him. How powerful was Feng Yunjing? Even without using spiritual power, he could quickly dodge the attack. He was in a bad mood. Now someone came to trouble him, his eyes suddenly became hostile, and the sword qi in his hand quietly condensed. Just when his sword qi was about to be released, a woman's hoarse voice suddenly sounded, "Young Master Feng, it is me, I'm Zhu Que, I'm Zhu Que next to King of Hell." Feng Yunjing was stunned for a moment when he saw a woman in ragged clothes and disheveled hair not far away. Seeing Feng Yunjing's action, the woman immediately rushed over, hugged his leg and whispered, "Young Master Feng, save me, please save me and my master." Feng Yunjing frowned. He of course knew who Zhu Que was, she was one of the 4 trusted subordinates of Nangong Yu. But his status was honorable, how could he remember the look of Nangong Yu's subordinate? However, the middle-aged man next to Feng Yunjing was surprised when he heard the woman's words. He bowed his head and lifted the woman's face, waving her hair to take a look. With just this wave, the middle-aged man almost vomited. He quickly threw his hand away with disgust. It turned out that the woman's face was covered with large black spots. Her skin was wrinkled and dry like tree bark like an old woman. There was also a scary scar on her face that was slightly wriggling like a centipede. Chapter 1022, This look, this, what the hell is this? The middle-aged man yelled in horror. He had seen Zhu Ke's appearance. Although she couldn't be said to be glamorous, she was also a beautiful woman. How could she be like this nowadays? She was uglier than the beggar on the street. The woman covered her face hurriedly, screamed in horror, and murmured, "It's not me, it's not me. It's the bitch Nalan Heshi who framed me. It's she who harmed me." Nalan Heshi. This name made both Feng Yunjing and the middle-aged man puzzled. At this time, the woman had once again rushed toward Feng Yunjing, saying in tears, "Young Master Feng, you must believe me, I really am Zhu Que, and my master is Elder Cheng from the Doctors Association. I will become like this because I was framed by that slut. And my master is also controlled by that slut. Young Master Feng, please trust me." As soon as the woman rushed over, Feng Yunjing smelled an unpleasant odor. His eyes were full of disgust, and he kicked away the woman. Unexpectedly, the hair of the woman fell off during the pulling, a black and uneven scalp and the woman's old and ugly face were also revealed to them. People passing by accidentally saw it, and they couldn't help but let out an exclamation, "Ghost." Feng Yunjing also felt his stomach tumbling, almost vomiting on the spot. The movement here finally alarmed Iron Kirin soldiers that were patrolling around. One of the Iron Kirin teams was about to come here to check the situation. The middle-aged man frowned and quickly said, "Young master, this woman knows Elder Cheng, maybe she really is Zhu Que. We might as well take her away first so we can ask questions." Feng Yunjing pondered for a moment and nodded, then he stretched out his hand and waved lightly. A transparent shield covered all three of them. In the blink of an eye, the three people disappeared in place. In a remote mansion in Yanjing City, Feng Yunjing and the middle-aged man slowly appeared. There was also the ugly ghost-like woman. As soon as the woman was thrown to the ground by Feng Yunjing, she immediately knelt on the ground, begging and crying, "Thank you, young Master Feng, for saving my life. Young Master Feng, please save my master too." "Your master?" Feng Yunjing narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "You mean Nangongyu?" "Yes. Yes. King of Hell Nangongyu is my master." "What do you mean by asking me to save him? What happened to Nangongyu?" The ugly woman raised her head abruptly. She said with her eyes sparkling, "Master. Master, is controlled by the slut." "Yes, it must be so. It's all because of that slut that the master's temperament has changed drastically. It's completely different from before. He even abolished my spiritual root and put me into the spirit sealing prison. I somehow managed to escape." The centipede scar on her face trembled as she said, her eyes were full of resentment and hatred. "Abolish spiritual root?" The middle-aged man couldn't help but whisper, "No wonder. No wonder you become like this. So, you really are Zhu Que?" The woman raised her head, looked carefully at the middle-aged man for a long while, and suddenly said in a hoarse voice, "Your hall master Zheng of the Feng family, I used to take medicine from you." The middle-aged man's eyes flashed, then he nodded at Feng Yunjing, "Young master, it seems that she is really Zhu Que. It's just Zhu Que, how did you become the way you are now?" Chapter 1023, Is It Xi Yue? I just said it. It's because of that slut. Zhu Que suddenly screamed hysterically. It was that slut who caused me to be locked in the damn place like spirit sealing prison. I was suffering so much, but I couldn't die. I can't wait to peel her skin, detach her muscle tendon, eat her meat. The bitch bewitches my master to treat me like that, she will definitely not end well. Zhu Que had escaped from King of Hell Mansion for 10 days, but remembering the days in spirit sealing prison, she felt like falling into the abyss of hell. Every day in the spirit sealing prison was extremely torturing. Especially when she saw the reflection of her face in the water, she wanted to tear Hashi into pieces. But at that time, she still had a glimmer of hope. Zhu Que always felt that the master was just being controlled by the slut, and lost his heart. When he woke up, he would know that she was the one who was good for him, and he would definitely let her go out. However, she had been tormented in the spirit sealing prison for so long, but what she finally got was not Nangongyu's "wake up," but the Zhu Que mark on her body disappeared without a trace. The disappearance of Zhu Ke's mark meant that someone had taken her place. It meant that King of Hell Mansion and Nangongyu completely erased her existence. Zhu Que was completely desperate in the spirit sealing prison, but at the same time, she was hysterically crazy. She was not reconciling to living like an inhuman in the spirit sealing prison, not reconciling to just dying like this. Even if I'm going to die, I must let the bitch who harmed me get retribution and get what she deserves. With that madness, Zhu Que broke 2 of her meridians and escaped from the spirit sealing prison. She escaped from the spirit sealing prison originally intended to go to the Doctors Association to find her master, but after she left the King of Hell Mansion, she discovered that Iron Kirin had taken control of the entire Yanjing city. The bases and medicine halls of the Feng family and the Doctors Association originally stationed on the street were all cleaned up. If she wants to leave Yanjing City, she must be interrogated by the Iron Kirin. With her current appearance, it would definitely attract attention. She would even be recognized by Xian Wu at a glance. At this time, Zhu Que was even more desperate to find that even if she escaped from the spirit sealing prison, she was still unable to escape. She could only watch her body aging day by day and dying day by day. When she was desperate, she suddenly saw Feng Yunjing on the street. Hall Master Zheng didn't recognize her at a glance, but she had seen Feng Yunjing many times before. Coupled with Feng Yunjing's outstanding appearance, she naturally recognized him at a glance. When Zhu Que saw Feng Yunjing, it was like seeing her only savior, so he rushed toward Feng Yunjing on the street desperately. Hall Master Zheng asked how Zhu Que would become like this, but Zhu Ke's mind at this time was already a little confused. She just spoke incoherently and kept shouting, "It's that bitch who set me up, that bitch seduced my master and controlled my master." Hall Master Zheng remembered the rumors in Yanjing City, and he suddenly frowned. "Is the person you mentioned that harmed you, Xi Yue?" "Xi Yue. Xi Yue? That's right, it's Xi Yue." "No. Wrong." Zhu Que nodded first, then she shook her head violently. "No, that slut is not called Xi Yue. Xi Yue is just her pseudonym. Her real name is not Xi Yue. She is third miss from Nailan Mansion. She is the daughter of Nailan Zhengze, Nailan Heshi." Chapter 1024. Tell us in detail, Nailan Heshi. Feng Yunjing and Hall Master Zheng couldn't help exclaiming. Feng Yunjing knew that Xi Yue was a woman, but he did not expect that Xi Yue's true identity turned out to be a miss of the Nailan family. Moreover, he heard that the Nailan family was exterminated a month ago. Now the entire mansion was empty like a haunted house. Could it be that Xi Yue did all this? Hall Master Zheng was shocked that Xi Yue, who had turned the entire Feng family upside down, and the amazing young man who amazed the world, turned out to be a woman. It's no wonder that Nan Gongyu protects her so much and has such an ambiguous relationship with her. It seems that Nan Gongyu has long known Xi Yue's identity as a woman. Hall Master Zheng took a deep breath, suppressed the shock in his heart, and continued to ask Zhu Que, "You said Xi Yue controlled Nan Gongyu, how did she do it? How do you prove it?" Zhu Que bit her teeth, making a rattling sound as if thinking of something. The pair of eyes bulged up on her wrinkled face, looking extremely scary. If Master weren't controlled, how could Master treat such a powerless ugly slut differently? If Master were not controlled, how could Master ignore his own illness in order to save her? Wait. Sickness? Hall Master Zheng quickly grabbed a word. Nan Gongyu got sick. What illness does he have? Zhu Que opened her mouth slightly, trying to say something, but she soon closed his mouth tightly and remained silent. All of the four confidants had a blood pact with Nan Gongyu. Even if she was no longer Zhu Que and her cultivation was lost, the binding force of the blood pact still exists. As long as she dared to tell the secrets related to Nan Gongyu, the blood pact would immediately backlash, killing her on the spot. Feng Yunjing was anxious in his heart. He wanted to know Nan Gongyu's weakness right away. He gathered a sword aura in his hand and said fiercely, "Tell me or not. What illness does Nan Gongyu have?" Listening to Zhu Ke's tone, Nan Gongyu's illness should be very serious. This is equivalent to Nan Gongyu's weakness. If I can grasp this weakness, I might be able to get rid of Nan Gongyu. By then, isn't Xi Yue mine? Zhu Que was full of horror. She covered his mouth, shook her head desperately, and refused to say one more word. Hall Master Zheng seemed to have thought of something. He frowned slightly, stopped Feng Yunjing, and said coldly to Zhu Que, "You tell us all the things that happened before and after Nan Gongyu met Xi Yue in detail." Seeing that she had escaped, she was overjoyed. In order to win the trust of Feng Yunjing, she didn't dare to conceal anything. She quickly told all the things she knew about Nailan Heshi, Xi Yue, and Nan Gongyu. The bitch Nailan Heshi was a trash at the time. She didn't have any spiritual power, and her medical skills were just at the amateur level. She couldn't even refine pill. However, Master believed her more than me, and he even let this bitch treat him. No cultivation. Can't refine pill. Feng Yunjing and Hall Master Zheng looked at each other again in horror. If Xi Yue really didn't have spiritual power at all and didn't know how to refine pill more than half a year ago, then according to her now well-known ability, how outstanding is this person's talent? What has she encountered that let her have such an achievement now? Chapter 1025, Death Penalty Speech Prohibition. Zhu Que shook her head and said, I don't know. I only know that Master was in retreat, and he left suddenly. When he came back, he brought back Xi Yue who was unconscious. I was a doctor, so I could feel that Xi Yue was already facing death. If it weren't for Master to sacrifice himself to save her, how could this slut survive? How could it arouse the earth-shaking natural phenomenon? Arousing the earth-shaking natural phenomenon? What do you mean by that? Zhu Que recalled the scene of that day, and she gritted her teeth and said viciously, in Yanjing City, everyone knows that Nailan Heshi is a waste that cannot cultivate, and her Dantian is a waste Dantian. But, I don't know what the bitch seduced my master to do. After her injury healed, she was suddenly able to draw spirit into her body, and even, when Zhu Que was about to say the strange scene of a giant vortex sucking all the spiritual power and the evil sun and night, previously translated as demon day and night, her body suddenly twitched. What kind of natural phenomenon is it? Hall Master Zheng was anxious. He grabbed Zhu Que by the collar and asked anxiously. Zhu Que's face was full of pain. She kept scratching her neck, desperately trying to speak, but she couldn't say anything except for making a click sound. What's going on? Zhu Que, what happened to you? Zhu Que's face changed from red to white, then from white to green. She looked like a fish about to die of suffocation. She couldn't do anything except squirming her mouth and protruding her eyes. Feng Yunjing's expression changed slightly and said, she was cast with a speech prohibition art. The so-called speech prohibition art would only be triggered only when certain forbidden words were mentioned. Once the enchantment was triggered, those who wanted to tell the secret would be punished. There were several types of punishments. Some were minor punishments, which could be restored to normal after the pain. Some were the sole imprisonment of the fundamental essence. Once the prohibited words were spoken, one's soul would be irreversibly damaged. Of course, there was also the death penalty. Feng Yunjing shook his head indifferently. She was given a death penalty speech prohibition. She's gone. Hall Master Zheng released his hand with an annoyed look and threw Zhu Que to the ground. He said with disgust, I thought saving this ugly monster can let us know more secrets about the King of Hell Mansion and Xi Yue, but she can't help anything at all. Zhu Que's body twitched after hearing the words. Her eyes were full of despair and resentment, but she couldn't say anything in the end. She died with blood coming out from her 7 orifices. Looking at Zhu Que who was dead, Feng Yunjing frowned and muttered to herself, strange natural phenomenon, what phenomenon is it? He knew that a lot of things happened in Yanjing City during this time. The spiritual power vortex that rumored to appear in the evil sun and night, the earlier opening of the sealed dragon domain's secret territory, do these have anything to do with Xi Yue? Hall Master Zheng frowned and said, in any case, there must be an ulterior secret in Nangong Yu and Xi Yue. And this secret must have something to do with the best quality pills sold by Xingda Hall. Maybe, it's also related to the sealed dragon domain's secret territory. Feng Yunjing nodded, and he said coldly, it seems that, as we had expected, the new owner of sealed dragon domain's secret territory is likely to be Nangong Yu or Xi Yue. Chapter 1026, Red Clothes Like Fire. Feng Yunjing clenched his fists abruptly, and a hint of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Xi Yue turns out to be Nailan Heshi, the well-known useless trash in Yanjing City. However, such a trash turned into a genius overnight and caused a natural phenomenon. What kind of secret is hidden in her body? I still remember that in breaking Spirit Mountain, Xi Yue had the power to resist even under my hands. Her strength is even comparable to the Hall Master Zheng besides. But in just half a year, how did she progress from a waste person with no cultivation to a powerhouse who can fight with Gold Core stage? And what benefits did Nangong Yu get from this? If I can get Xi Yue and know the secret of Xi Yue's rapid advancement, can I be stronger than Nangong Yu? Will the elders in the clan also look at me differently? Hall Master Zheng suddenly said in a deep voice, "Young master, why don't we go to Naylan Mansion first? Maybe we can find any clues." Feng Yunjing nodded, then they quickly disposed of Zhu Ke's body and left the mansion in a flash. Young master, the Naylan Mansion is ahead. It is already empty now, and I heard that it is even haunted, so it hasn't been sold yet. Feng Yunjing listened to Hall Master Zhang's narration and nodded. They accelerated their pace and were about to enter the gate. Suddenly, Feng Yunjing's footsteps halted, and he retreated abruptly. The door of the Naylan Mansion was still empty, no one was there, but Feng Yunjing's face looked shocked and uncertain. His eyes were full of panic. Hall Master Zheng, who had been following Feng Yunjing, saw Feng Yunjing stepped back, so he gave him a hand. At this time, he could feel the slight tremor of Feng Yunjing's hand, and the fear and amazement that permeated his emotions. Hall Master Zheng looked at the door of Naylan Mansion, but there was nothing unusual at all. He couldn't help asking, "Young master, what's the matter?" Feng Yunjing opened her mouth, unable to speak for a while. "There is," after finally uttering 2 words, his pupils suddenly shrank. The blood in his body seemed to freeze, and he could no longer move anymore. At this time, Hall Master Zheng also found something wrong. He stared straight into the direction of the Naylan Mansion's main entrance, only to see a figure slowly appearing there. The red clothes were like fire, and the hair was like a waterfall. The exquisite eyebrows were like the dazzling sun, which made people want to worship and confess their sins just by looking at them. It was a young man who could take away the breathing of those who saw him. His face was covered by black silk-like hair. The light and shadow disappeared, making him look elusive. However, he knew by just a glance that how peerless and fascinating the man's look was. When Hall Master Zheng met Nangong Yu for the first time before, he also admired that there was such an outstanding man in the world. Only that face could make all women in the world willing to die for him. No wonder the arrogant miss would fall for Nangong Yu faithfully for so many years. Chapter 1027, Surrender and Fear, but the face of the man in red clothes in front was comparable to Nangong Yu. The aura that seemed to radiate unintentionally from him was even more frightening than Nangong Yu. The man in red walked out of Naylan Mansion, and he slowly glanced at Feng Yunjing and Hall Master Zheng. At this moment, Feng Yunjing and Hall Master Zheng were all stunned, and sweats came out from their foreheads. The man in red clothes smiled slightly, stretched out his finger, and gently drew one on his lips. That smile was really more dazzling than 100 flowers blooming, but in the eyes of Feng Yunjing and Hall Master Zheng, they seemed to see the evil from hell, making their knees tremble. Finally, they were unable to withstand the pressure and knelt on their knees. Speech Prohibition Art. Speech Prohibition Art. Feng Yunjing's eyes were full of panic, and all the humiliation, inferiority, and unwillingness in his mind all vanished, leaving only the surrender and fear in his mind. Just a few hours ago, they coldly watched Zhu Que died of the speech prohibition art. Now, they had been cast with the same speech prohibition art. Their life and death were completely controlled by others, but they couldn't raise any thoughts of resistance in his heart. The man in red did not look at them again after drawing one. He flicked his sleeve to draw a red arc in the air. Immediately afterward, Feng Yunjing felt a dazzling white light flashing in front of him, and he closed his eyes subconsciously. When he opened it again, he was horrified to find that the entire Naylan Mansion in front of him disappeared. That's right, it wasn't that it collapsed into ruins or it was blown into fly ash, but it disappeared completely. The figure of the man in red clothes had already risen into the sky and lightly jumped onto a snow-white airship. The airship was a little bigger than the flying sword, and it was all crystal clear, exuding a bitter chill. Feng Yunjing could still feel the bone-piercing chill standing far away from the spacecraft. It was even colder than the thousands of years-old ice. The man in red was standing on the white jade airship. His slender figure seemed to exude radiance, but he seemed to be affected by the piercing cold at all. Feng Yunjing opened his mouth with his body trembling, trying to say something. But in the blink of an eye, the white jade airship disappeared into the sky. The coldness and pressure all over his body suddenly disappeared. Feng Yunjing let out a sigh of relief. The sweat on his face was dripping down like rain. Hall Master Zheng even sat down on the ground and said tremblingly, "Young master, that man in red clothes who is he? How could he have such a terrifying cultivation? He actually raised the entire Nalan mansion. How high his cultivation is." Before Hall Master Zheng finished speaking, his eyes suddenly widened, and the two eyeballs almost came out. He stretched out his hand in horror and choked his throat, making a click sound. His expression was extremely painful, it was full of despair and fear. However, his struggle lasted only a few seconds, and there was a loud bang in his throat. His entire head flew out and rolled on the ground a few times. Feng Yunjing was also stunned by the scene in front of him. He stared blankly at Hall Master Zheng's bloody head as well as those eyes that seemed to roll out, and he couldn't help shivering. Chapter 1028, The Real Intention, Speech Prohibition Art. What is forbidden is all the words about the man in red clothes. Even if it is not to other people, the communication between us will be punished by death. Who is this man in red clothes? Why did he come to Nalan Mansion? Feng Yunjing panted in horror for a long time in the same place, then he wiped the cold sweat from his head anxiously before hurriedly leaving the street where Nalan Mansion was located. Before finding Xi Yue and returning to Xingda Hall, I must first tell the elders about the identity of Xi Yue and Nalan Heshi, as well as Nan Gongyu's illness, as well as the speech prohibition art cast upon me. I must think of a solution. As for Xi Yue, no, Nalan Heshi, she will never escape from my hands. Never. The news that Nalan Mansion disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye quickly spread throughout the Miluo continent. A mere Nalan Mansion certainly couldn't attract everyone's attention, but the key was that the way Nalan Mansion disappeared was really weird. The Nalan Mansion seemed to have evaporated from the world, not even a broken tile was left behind. Everything happened silently in the blink of an eye. Of course, the news quickly reached the Tiangang kingdom. When Heshi got the news, the surprise and doubt in his mind were more than anyone else. Gu Lufeng knew Heshi's identity, so this matter naturally made people inquire in more detail. He frowned and said, "I asked Mei Ruyan to inquire about the news from many sources. No one in Yanjing City knew what happened to Nalan Mansion at that time. However, some people said that just before Nalan Mansion disappeared, they saw a white jade airship in the sky." Heshi stared at Nan Gongyu. Nan Gongyu retracted divine sense in the inscribed jade slip and nodded, "Will you also sent news? Iron Kirin in Yanjing City also doesn't know what happened. There are also people who saw the white jade airship and a man in red clothes on it. However, he disappeared in a flash, so no one can confirm whether it was just an illusion." Man in red clothes? Heshi thought for a moment, but she couldn't think of anyone with such characteristics. She looked at Nan Gongyu, and Nan Gongyu also shook his head. "I can't guess who it is. It's just," Nan Gongyu paused slightly with a dark glow in his eyes. "It is not difficult to raise Nalan Mansion to the ground, but it is difficult to make Nalan Mansion disappear in the blink of an eye without attracting anyone's attention. As far as I know, in the entire Miluo continent, no one can do this absolutely. Who will this man in red clothes be?" Gu Lufeng frowned and said, "Nalan Mansion is just a family that emerged more than 10 years ago, and has no strong background. What's more, Nalan Mansion has long been exterminated. What is the purpose of this person appearing in Nalan Mansion?" Baihu also knocked on the table and said with a puzzled face, "That is to say, although Nalan Mansion is considered to be one of the 4 major families in the Jinling Kingdom, it is really nothing in the vast Miluo continent. Why would such a powerhouse bother with a mere Nalan Mansion, and it is even a dead Nalan Mansion? It's really weird." When Baihu spoke halfway, his voice suddenly paused. He looked at Heshi with some caution, and he coughed. "Could it be that this person is not interested in the Nalan Mansion?" "But Princess," before Baihu spoke, Nan Gongyu's fierce eyes swept over. He immediately shivered, made a silent gesture, and shut up. Chapter 1029, A Series of Questions. Nan Gongyu saw Heshi's frown and the hidden worries in her gaze. He couldn't help but step forward, hugged her and said, "Sheer, don't think too much, no matter what that person wants to do, I won't let him hurt you." Heshi raised his head and glanced at Xiaoqi, who was aside, then she looked back at Nan Gongyu and said in a low voice, "Nan Gongyu, do you think that person's purpose is my mother?" Even though she didn't even see the face of the man in red clothes, Heshi always had a trace of inexplicable anxiety in her heart. After she heard her master talk about Enlingüe, she was always worried that one day, those people who were looking for Enlingüe would look for her and Xiaoqi again. So now when she heard the news of the man in red clothes, she felt that this man came for Enlingüe. Nan Gongyu's eyebrows jumped slightly, and his hands holding Heshi tightened again. He suddenly raised his head and made a gesture. Bai Hu and Qing Long immediately went out. Gu Lufeng also sensibly pulled Xiaoqi out. Nan Gongyu lowered his head and said, "Sheer, are you sure that your mother Enlingüe is dead?" Heshi was stunned, then she tried to find the memory of the original owner. She frowned, I don't know. Many things are too far away, I can't remember them clearly. But in my memory, my mother disappeared suddenly. I haven't seen her body, nor have I seen her buried. Nan Gongyu's eyes narrowed slightly with a thoughtful look. Disappearance doesn't necessarily mean dead. As long as you don't see the corpse, she may still be alive. But, even Mammy Chin kept saying that my mother was dead. Heshi was startled, then she shook her head again. And, if mother hadn't died, how could Nailan Jingzi believe it? I've been in contact with Nailan Jingzi, he didn't doubt my mother's death at all. What's more, if my mother hadn't died, where would she be now? Why didn't she show up until now? Heshi's series of questions silenced the entire room. Nan Gongyu sighed and said, "Forget it, no matter if Enlingüe is still alive or not, Xia, you should never mention her in front of anyone. As your master said, if Enlingüe really comes from the upper realm, then those who searched for her more than a decade ago were definitely not what we can fight against now." Heshi nodded, reached out, hugged Nan Gongyu back and let out a sigh of relief. "You too, you must protect yourself." Nan Gongyu smiled softly and dropped a kiss on her head, but in the blink of an eye, the smile on his face was replaced by contemplation. Is the man in red clothes from the upper realm? Who is he? What is his purpose? Next, Heshi stayed in Yangon City for a few days with a responsible attitude toward the patient to ensure that Zhuge Xiaotian's illness would not recur. After Xiaoqi completely absorbed the second piece of divine soul jade, his spirit became better and he could say more and more words, which made Heshi very happy. When Heshi got up early this morning, Heshi did not see Little Egg and other little guys. At this moment, Mo Xiaotu came in with her mouth pouting. She said angrily, "Sister Shiyu, Little Egg, they are too bad, they didn't call me when they went to buy gifts. They said we will go out together in the morning, I will ignore them when they are back." Heshi saw her face with messy hair and sleepy eyes, and she couldn't help but sneer, "Did you oversleep, so they didn't wake you up and went out by themselves?" Chapter 1030, Something happened. Mo Xiaotu's body became stiff. She peeked at Xiaoqi, who was obediently learning to use chopsticks, and her cheeks blushed. She immediately ran away with her face covered. Oops, she was angry just now, but she forgot that she hadn't washed her face yet. Such ugly and silly look was actually seen by Xiaoqi's brother. She didn't want to live. Heshi was amused by this girl's cute look, then Gu Lufeng came in at this time. She couldn't help asking, "Did Little Egg and the others went to buy gifts?" Gu Lufeng nodded and smiled, and they said they want to bring some souvenirs for Shi Jia and the children of the Virtue Home. Little Egg suggested, then Little Golden Dragon, Little Cow, and Shaoli all went with them. Heshi breathed a sigh of relief, but she was still a little worried. She spreading one hand, and purple vines emerged from her palm and shook slightly, conveying a hint of intimacy. At this moment, Bai Hu also walked in from outside the door and just heard their conversation. Seeing Heshi's nervous look, he couldn't help but smiled. Princess, you are still worried about those little guys. They are all ferocious, in Little Egg's words, it's max combat power. You should worry about those who provoke them instead of these little ones. Heshi had also learned from Purple Abyss Vine at this time that a branch vine of Little Purple was following Little Egg. With the protection of Little Purple, they shouldn't have any problems. She was really relieved. Gu Lufeng smiled gently. I have already told Little Egg and the others that we will leave at noon, so they will definitely be back at noon. However, after noon, Little Egg and the others did not come back. Heshi's face became dignified, but she was still hoping that the few little guys just forgot the time for fun. However, Purple Abyss Vine, which suddenly shook in her hand, broke her illusion. The clone of Purple Abyss Vine had about 60% to 70% of the attack and defense power of Purple Abyss Vine, but because it had almost no intelligence, the information that could be conveyed to the original body was very limited. From the news sent back from the Purple Abyss Vine clone, Heshi could only know that something really happened to Little Egg and the others. It was the first time that Nangongyu saw Heshi's panic, and her face even turned pale. He hugged Heshi with distress and said softly, Sheer, don't worry. These spirit beasts have signed a contract with you. Although there may be many ways to block the contract with the owner and the spiritual pet in Miluo continent, at least you can confirm through the contract whether they are still safe. Heshi's eyes widened suddenly. She quickly closed her eyes to feel the contracts in her body. Soon, there were several rays of light on her left hand, and there were magnificent totems looming on it. But to Nangongyu's surprise, in addition to the totem on her left hand, a faint fluorescent light was also lit up on Heshi's heart. The light was still colorful, and it was flickering as if it was breathing. Moreover, because of the emergence of this light, Nangongyu actually had a strange feeling that his body and soul were gently comforted by a powerful and soft vitality. His cultivation that didn't progress for a long time actually had a slight change at this moment. But soon, Heshi opened her eyes with a relieved expression. She said in a low voice, fortunately, they are still alive, and they don't seem to have suffered any injuries. As Heshi opened her eyes, the strange power disappeared instantly as if it had never existed. Chapter 1032, Tired of living at this time, Yunlan's sect was in a mess as if being blown by a tornado. The square was full of injured people who were being helped to walk in, some were still lying on the ground, weeping and moaning. Some people couldn't help but look at the distant sky with lingering fears on their faces and said, I didn't expect the few small spiritual pets that seem to be completely non-threatening are actually so powerful. Alas, this time, Yunlan's sect really suffered a heavy loss. Yeah. The other person clutched his painful chest and coughed a few times. Fortunately those benefactors came in time, otherwise our entire Yunlan sect would have to be overturned by those little beasts. I didn't expect it that even the elder of Yunlan sect is not the opponent of those little beasts. However, this is also considered a blessing in disguise. Cough cough. A man wearing Yunlan sect's elite costumes, although his face was ugly, he still showed a sly smile. We have fought with those spiritual pets, so you should know how special and powerful those spiritual pets are. Now that we hand over these pets, the benefits we can get in the future will be endless. Hee, senior fellow apprentice Feng is right. Thanks to Elderly for connecting us to the benefactors. If our Yunlan sect's people can be sent there in the future, our future is limitless. It's a pity that we just let go of those little bastards just like that, they even injured so many of us. I really want to peel their skin and cut off their tendons to dispel my hatred. Junior fellow apprentice Xiao, do you think those little beasts will have a good life? Haha, as they were talking and laughing, the door that had just been closed suddenly emitted a loud noise. Immediately afterward, the heavy metal door made a creaking sound as if overwhelmed, then the heavy lock fell and the door was pushed open. Yunlan sect's disciples were surprised at first, but when they saw that it was just a few young men, they were all furious. One of the middle-aged men in charge of the general affairs walked up with an impatient look. Leave, Yunlan sect is not accepting guests today. Didn't you see that we are all busy? Come back another day. However, before the middle-aged man finished speaking, a purple shadow whizzed past. He only felt that his neck was tight, and he was picked up by something around his neck. A clear moving but frosty voice sounded in his ears. Where are the spiritual pets you caught? What spiritual pets? Don't talk nonsense. The middle-aged steward rolled his eyes and shouted sharply, You, how dare you? Do you know what this place is? You dare to cause trouble in our Yunlan sect? Are you tired of living? He laughed lowly. Yes, it is indeed tired of living. The middle-aged steward showed a smug smile, thinking she was scared, but his eyes widened in horror the next moment. There was a frightening clicking sound from his neck, accompanied by bone-breaking pain and the sound of blood gurgling out. The middle-aged manager widened his mouth, making a clicking sound. Then, after a snap sound, his entire neck was broken. His head rolled down from his neck. Ah! Chapter 1034, Who is it? Our Yunlan sect almost lost to a few spiritual pets. Fan Guangshuan sighed, then he looked at Li Zhenyu who was sitting below, this time, thanks to Elder Li's decisive decision. We contacted Elder Cheng when we caught those little beasts. Otherwise, we would not only make such a big contribution, but we might suffer a big loss instead. Li Zhenyu, who was sitting in the first place, still looked pale at this time. His chest was wrapped with thick gauze and was fixed with a splint. Even when he spoke or acted, there were pains coming from his chest. Therefore, when Li Zhenyu heard Fan Guangshuan's words, he first smiled, then his facial expression was distorted. The fire of anger and hatred in his eyes could not be covered up. Xi Yue, they dare to ruin my Li family. I also want to let them have the taste of losing their precious things. Those little beasts are all amazing and extraordinary, and their breeds are so peculiar. Now that they are lost, I believe that bitch Xi Yue will definitely feel distressed for a while. Cough cough cough. What's more, such spiritual pets are really rare. The elders of the Doctors Association will be very satisfied. Elder Cheng has promised that he will never forget the credit of our Yunlan sect. When Elder Cheng returns, we will get a lot of benefits. Fan Guangshuan laughed heartily, his eyes filled with ambitious light. The other elders of the Yunlan sect also stood up to congratulate each other, and their faces were full of smiles with Yu Rongyan. In this Miluo continent, who didn't know that building a bridge with the Doctors Association will get a lot of benefits? Especially this Elder Cheng, I heard that he has a big position in the Miracle Healer College. If some of our Yunlan sect's disciples can be recruited, then our Yunlan sect will grow even big in the future. Qingxia sect is now getting more arrogant, relying on the supply of medicinal pills from the Shengda Hall. They now completely look down on our Yunlan sect, the second largest sect of Tiangang Kingdom. They even dare to blacklist our entire Yunlan sect and stopped us from buying the best quality pills. This is really absurd. We have now built a connection with the Doctors Association. Soon, Qingxia sect will become our stepping stone, and we will be the #1 sect of Tiangang Kingdom. Li Zhenyu listened to the discussion with his eyes shining as if he had seen his glorious future. However, just as they were thinking about the glorious future, they suddenly heard a loud bang from the door. Immediately afterward, a dark shadow flew in like a cannonball from the door, and it slammed into the position of one of the laughing elders. He heard a loud bang. Immediately afterward, the elder let out a heart-piercing shout. The mahogany chair sitting under him shattered and collapsed to the ground. Sawdust mixed with dust was scattering in the hall. When the dust dissipated, everyone was shocked looking at the elder who had been hit. 2 corpses laid horizontally on the ground. One had broken bones all over his body. His face was mutilated. The other one was the elder. He had already been dead. That's the elder of the gold core stage. How could he be killed just like this? Fan Guangshuan abruptly stood up from his position and shouted at the door, Who is it? Chapter 1035, act wildly. As soon as he spoke, a pretty young man walked in slowly from the door. The young man had long eyebrows and phoenix eyes, snow-white skin, and facial features that were comparable to the snow lotus on the towering mountain. His appearance was obviously alluring and gorgeous, but one could forget about his look by looking at the frosty expression and the icy light in his eyes, arousing a sense of scrupulous and fear in one's mind. Li Jianyu stood up abruptly when he saw the visitor. He gritted his teeth and said, "Xi Yue, you dare to come to Yunlan sect?" The visitor was naturally Heshi, as well as Nan Gongyu, Qing Long, Bai Hu, Qing Wan and Gu Lufeng behind her. As for Mo Xiaotu and Shen Qingchua, she let them stay in the city. Heshi glanced at Li Jianyu with a cold gaze. "Li Jianyu, I used to treat you as a clown, so I just taught you a lesson without taking your life. But it seems, you're tired of living." Li Jianyu clutched his painful chest, stared at Heshi fiercely, and suddenly laughed. "Xi Yue, you came to my Yunlan sect, and you still dare to speak arrogantly. You really think with those gold core stage people behind you, you can do whatever you want in my Yunlan sect?" Yunlan sect is the largest sect in the Zhangming kingdom. There are dozens of martial artists in the gold core stage, and there is also a patriarch of the nascent soul stage who is currently retreating in the back mountains. If Xi Yue thinks he can run wild in Yunlan sect after showing off in the Jinling kingdom and Yangon city, he is really having a whim. Thinking of this, the pain and hatred on Li Jianyu's face turned into a proud arrogance. He was originally worried about the forces of the Qingxia sect in Yangon city, so he let go of Xi Yue. He didn't expect her to come to Yunlan sect herself. "Ha, you really want to dig your own grave?" Li Jianyu suddenly laughed, cough cough cough. "Xi Yue, I want you to taste the consequence of being arrogant today." As he said, he turned to Fan Guangshuan and said in a deep voice, "Sect Master, this person is Xi Yue, the Xingda Hall's owner and the person who really provides the best quality pill for Qingxia sect. As long as we can control this person in our hands, do we still have to worry that we can't grow faster and stronger than the Qingxia sect?" Fan Guangshuan's pupils contracted abruptly, and his breathing became a little short. The other elders on the side also looked over with greedy faces. When Li Jianyu saw the expressions of Fan Guangshuan and the other elders, he had guessed their thoughts. He was even more confident in his heart and continued, "In addition, there is one more thing, Sect Master, this Xi Yue is not just the owner of Xingda Hall. Even the spiritual pets we caught in the morning are all his. He can get such rare best quality pills and tame such special spiritual pets. Even if he can't be of our use, we can just hand him to the Doctors Association." Fan Guangshuan took a deep breath. His voice was slightly low and hoarse, but he and the Qingxia sect have deep connections. "If Qingxia sect knows," Li Jianyu sneered and said, "Sect Master, if we handle this matter carefully, who will know Xi Yue came to our Yunlan sect? Qingxia sect won't even know." Fan Guangshuan's eyes flashed, and he let out a burst of laughter. When these people were talking, Heshi and others watched their performance quietly. Chapter 1036, So much nonsense. Gu Lufeng smiled lightly. Probably, they are used to being aloof and can't recognize their situation for a while. Fan Guangshuan listened to their careless attitude of looking down at them, and he was filled with anger. He said coldly, "Just a few martial artists of the gold core stage, and you think you are invincible? You dare to act wild in my Yunlan sect? Brothers, let's teach them how to be humble. It's really noisy." Nan Gongyu, who had been silent for a long time, suddenly spoke slowly, "Since they don't recognize the situation, let them take a good look themselves." As soon as Nan Gongyu finished his words, he flicked his sleeve. Suddenly, a rumbling sound resounded in the hall, and the roof above it collapsed in a crack. With just a second, it was actually turned into dust. Fan Guangshuan and others standing in the hall were all horrified, looking toward the front of the hall. When they saw the scene in front of them clearly, they all took a quick breath. The original arrogance on their faces turned into deep fear and amazement instantly. There were hundreds of martial artists in black armor standing on the square outside the Yunlan sect's hall. They lined up neatly one by one, blocking every exit of Yunlan sect tightly. In the square, The Yunlan sect disciples who were in the process of healing the wounds were lying silently on the ground at this time. The entire Yunlan sect, the original lively and noisy Yunlan sect, now looked like a ghost town. There was neither a sound or a person there. A deep fear surged in Fan Guangshuan's heart. He tremblingly pointed at Xi Yue and said with sharp and hurried tone, "You, who are you? Who are these people?" He stepped forward, and the purple vines in her hand flew out like streamers flying all over the sky. Fan Guangshuan was shocked, and he was about to cast a magic weapon to resist. Suddenly, a pressure made him feel terrified. He seemed to be drowned in the icy blood for a while, making him unable to move a bit. All the elders in the hall also had the same feeling. Each of them was horrified. They could only watch the purple vines released by He sweeping over, but their bodies were unable to move because of the overwhelming spiritual pressure. After a while, all the elders in the hall were firmly tied up by purple vines and placed in a row in front of He. He walked slowly in front of Li Zhenyu, and the tip of the purple vine lifted his chin. Her cold voice was murderous. "Go ahead, Li Zhenyu, where did you send my spiritual pets? If you tell me, I might give you a quick death." Li Zhenyu's eyes widened, staring at her closely as if looking at a monster. "You, who are you? What are those troops?" Those are not Qingxia sect's disciples." "What are they? Too much nonsense." He sighed softly, "I don't have the patience to listen to you." After speaking, she lightly sprinkled a handful of silver powder in her hand. Li Zhenyu's voice stopped abruptly. Chapter 1037, Bad Mood. The next moment, his entire face was distorted from pain, then he rolled on the ground frantically. While rolling, he scratched his skin and knocked his bones non-stop. He even broke his injured ribs, but he didn't seem to feel it. He was satisfied that Li Zhenyu was so painful that he lost his mind, but she could no longer bother him. She turned her gaze slightly and looked at another elder. Then, "Now it's your turn. Can you tell me where my spiritual pets went?" No, I don't know." "What spiritual pets? I don't know what you are talking about." Before the words were finished, a sword light flashed. The elder was decapitated. He squinted slightly with impatience. "I'll ask again, where are my spiritual pets?" "I'm sorry, I'm in a bad mood today and my patience is limited. If you all don't say anything, then I will have to sprinkle the medicine I used on Li Zhenyu on each of you." He's words made the remaining elders of Yunlan sect almost instinctively look toward Li Zhenyu. His entire face was now bloody, and he kept bumping his head against the pillar crazily. Seeing this, there was only fear and despair in the elders' hearts. He slowly took out the bottle containing the silver powder and chuckled softly. "I count to 3. Wait. Stop. I say. Fan Guangshuan finally couldn't bear it, and he said in fear, I know where your spiritual pet went. They were taken away by the elder of the Doctors' Association." "Which elder?" "Yes, it's Elder Cheng." "Elder Cheng?" He frowned slightly. Qing Wan stepped forward and whispered in her ear, "Miss, Elder Cheng is the master of the previous Zhu Quebec. He is an 8th grade doctor and has a high status in the Doctors' Association." "Zhu Que's master?" He narrowed her eyes, and a hint of murderousness flashed in her eyes. "No matter who it is, those who dare to touch my little ones should deserve to die 10,000 times." She continued to look at Fan Guangshuan. "Where were they taken?" I don't know." Fan Guangshuan's eyes flickered slightly, and he whispered. Li Zhenyu contacted him and passed the spiritual pets to him. "I don't know. I really don't know where were they sent." He smiled, and the purple vines suddenly swayed. The sharp tip of the vine suddenly pierced into the chest of one of the elders. The elder let out a miserable howl, then his blood was sucked by the purple abyss vine quickly. In the blink of an eye, he turned from a vigorous old man to a mummy. Fan Guangshuan's pupils shrank suddenly, and his body instinctively moved back, shaking constantly. He narrowed her eyes and said, "Do you want to become the next mummy or you want to taste the same pain as Li Jianyu?" I think medicine powder. It can make you suffer longer, right? I say. Please don't kill me, don't kill me. At this time, Fan Guangshuan was utterly terrified as he no longer dared to hide. It is the Miracle Healer Academy. The Miracle Healer Academy has been collecting rare beasts. Therefore, the rare beasts we collected before will also be transferred there. Chapter 1038. Remove their root. As he said, he couldn't help begging for mercy. Please let us go, we are just helping them. This has nothing to do with us. Li Jianyu came up with this idea, and your spiritual pets were also caught by him. And the elder of the Doctors Association is also contacted by him. We really don't know anything about this. Heshi's eyes flickered with a dark light, and she slowly uttered 4 words, Miracle Healer Academy. Qing Wan stepped forward and said, "Miss, I know which direction Miracle Healer Academy is in. Let's go now, maybe it's still not too late." Heshi nodded and looked at Nan Gongyu. Nan Gongyu smiled slightly, stretched out his hand to rub her head, and whispered, "Go, I'll take care of the rest." Heshi only felt warm in her heart. Her panicking heart was calmed because of his smile full of tolerance and pampering. As long as the man stood by her side, she felt that she had found her support and she would not fall. Heshi squeezed Nan Gongyu's hand, then she cast the flying sword and flew away without stopping. Those who left with Heshi were Gu Lufeng, Qing Wan, and Bai Hu. Qing Long stayed with Nan Gongyu. Seeing Heshi leave, the purple vines that originally bound Fan Guangshuan also disappeared like they were melted. Fan Guangshuan breathed a sigh of relief. His eyes flickered sullenly as he looked at Nan Gongyu and Qing Long. They were now looking at the direction that Heshi left without paying attention to them. Fan Guangshuan and the remaining elders of Yunlan sect looked at each other, and their eyes looked vicious. In the next moment, all of them suddenly flew into the air with their magic weapons and spiritual power shining, charging at Nan Gongyu and Qing Long. There were more than a dozen gold core stage martial artists here, so they believed they could deal with merely 2 gold core stage cultivators. Naturally, Nan Gongyu had already sensed the movements of Fan Guangshuan and others. He made a cold sneer. When their attacks were about to hit him, a flash of sword light appeared from his hand. Piercing painful screams sounded all at once. Even when Fan Guangshuan's lower half body fell, he still didn't realize what had happened. At the last moment of his life, he widened his eyes and stared at Nan Gongyu. Nan Gongyu was so much taller than him at this time, and the dazzling sunlight shone on his face, reflecting that unparalleled appearance. Fan Guangshuan forgot the fear of death and the pain of his whole body for a while. He only muttered in disbelief, "Hell. King of Hell, you are King of Hell, how? We just wanted to catch a few spiritual pets to get the connection with the Doctors Association and make a great contribution. We just dreamed of increasing Yunlan sect's strength to a higher level and even eventually replacing Qingxia sect as the largest sect. We just caught a few spiritual pets, but we provoked an unmatched powerhouse. I'm really unwilling." Nan Gongyu took back the sealed dragon sword, and said lightly to Qing Long, "The back mountain of the Yunlan sect has their patriarch. He just broke through the nascent soul stage a few years ago, but his realm is not stable yet and he is old. Qing Long, go and remove their root." Qing Long was startled slightly, then he bowed his head without hesitation, "Yes, master." Chapter 1039, Submissive. As soon as he answered, he turned into a blue light and disappeared into the mountains. Not many people know that Qing Long had reached the gold core stage perfect stage as early as 10 years ago, and he had been trying to break through 5 years ago. Because of his cultivation method, he had been suppressing his cultivation at the gold core stage so that he could have a stronger strength after the breakthrough. However, his strength had gradually surpassed the nascent soul early stage master in the past few years. After the battle in the Luli sect, he even had the strength to kill the nascent soul early stage master. Under the cloudless blue sky, an ordinary-looking airship was moving fast in the sky. The aircraft was not big. There was only one cabin and 2 rooms, but the layout inside was luxurious and comfortable. At this time, in the corner of the airship room, a huge cage was placed. Inside the cage were Little Egg, Little Golden Dragon, Shaoli, and Little Dumb Cow. On the side of a jade-carved seat, there was a middle-aged man with eagle eyes and high nose sitting on it. His appearance was not very eye-catching, but his hands were quite a bit longer than ordinary people. They were thin and dark. They were just as creepy as the spider legs. At this time, the middle-aged man was looking at a few small spiritual pets who were in a coma with admiration and satisfaction. Suddenly, a man's low voice came beside him. Elder Cheng is really good. You actually get the spiritual pets of Xi Yue. I've fought with these spiritual pets, and they have pretty good skills. Even ordinary gold core stage martial artists will suffer a loss under their hands, but now in the hands of Elder Cheng, they are so submissive. The middle-aged man immediately looked prouder as he looked at the young man next to him. The young man had clear facial features. Although he was handsome, he gave a gloomy feeling to others. It turned out to be Feng Yunjing, who appeared in Yanjing City a few days ago. It turned out that after Feng Yunjing escaped from death at the Nailan mansion, he returned to Feng family with the body of Hall Master Zheng without stopping for a moment. Feng family was in a commotion because of the death of Hall Master Zheng and the speech prohibition art on Feng Yunjing. They also heard the rumor that Nailan mansion was razed to the ground, so they knew that the speech prohibition art was related to the disappearance of Nailan mansion. However, no matter what method they used, there was no way to find anything wrong with Feng Yunjing. The speech prohibition art was clearly cast, but they couldn't even trace the speech prohibition art. With this alone, they could imagine how powerful the person who raised Nailan mansion was. The more so, the more Feng family's members wanted to know about this person from Feng Yunjing. Feng Yunjing was also worried about the speech prohibition art on his body, which was like a time bomb. If he accidentally leaked it, he would be dead like Hall Master Zheng. So in the end, the elders of the Feng family got the conclusion was that if the speech prohibition art on Feng Yunjing could really be solved by someone, then only the president of the Doctors Association, Lu Shiyang, could do it. Lu Shiyang was the most amazing genius in the entire Miluo continent except Nangongyu. He was not only proficient in medical skills, but also arrays and some rare spells. If they found Lu Shiyang, then perhaps Feng Yunjing's speech prohibition art could be solved. However, Feng Yunjing contacted the people in the Doctors Association, only to learn that Lu Shiyang was not in the association now, but he went to Miracle Healer Academy. Thus, Feng Yunjing hurried over. Chapter 1040, Can even sleep like this, who knows? He happened to run into Elder Cheng and the little ones he had caught. Feng Yunjing almost recognized these spiritual pets when he saw them. They were Xi Yue's. Elder Cheng slightly licked his lips and said, "Why is young Master Feng so sure that these spiritual pets are Xi Yue's?" Xi Yue. Nowadays, no one in the medical field of the Miluo continent didn't know this name. Especially the elders of the Doctors Association couldn't wait to dig out the best quality pill formula and the pill refiner behind Xi Yue immediately. Feng Yunjing nodded and said, "I said that I have fought against these spiritual pets and will never recognize mistakenly. And I also know that Xi Yue treasures her spiritual pets very much, so as long as the spiritual pet is in the hands of Elder Cheng, she will come to you sooner or later. And as long as Xi Yue comes, he will never escape from my hands." Elder Cheng snorted coldly when he heard the words, and a murderous light flashed in his eyes. Humph. Xi Yue, just an inexperienced kid, dares to go against the Doctors Association. I want to see how good he is. With that said, Elder Cheng flicked his sleeves, got up and walked out. Feng Yunjing smiled slightly and walked out. After the two left the cabin, Little Dragon, who was in a coma in the cage, suddenly opened his eyes and looked around. After confirming that there was no one on the side and would not be found, he hurriedly pushed the small partner beside him from behind. With a push, Xiaoli immediately opened her eyes. Her beautiful and cute smiling face was sober. She didn't look drowsy at all. After the little girl sat up, she was not panicked or excited, but she lowered her eyes with worry and contemplation. Little Golden Dragon glanced at her and didn't say anything, then turned around and pushed Little Egg and Little Dumb Cow. Who knows, these two little guys didn't even react at all. Little Golden Dragon suddenly panicked. Did Old Man's trick work on them? He flew toward Little Egg. As he was about to shout anxiously, a low snoring sound suddenly came into his ears. Take a closer look, Little Golden Dragon was dumbfounded. He couldn't wait to slap these two guys into pig heads. It turned out that these two little guys were not injured, but fell asleep. Little Egg's pink and tender pig's nose still made a snoring sound. He really slept soundly. Little Golden Dragon raised his paws angrily and slapped their heads. Bad guy, want to fight? Little Egg leaped up and clutched his small paws into punches. He was ready to fight. Little Dumb Cow blinked his eyes and sat up stupidly. He obviously still didn't know the current situation. Little Golden Dragon slapped Little Egg's head angrily and shouted in a low voice, "You're looking for a fight. Big lazy pig, you can even fall asleep like this. You might as well sleep to death." Even Xiaoli, who was worried, was amused by the cute looks of Little Egg and Little Cow's dumb looks. Huh? Little Egg rubbed his head, looked at the surroundings and suddenly became fully awake. Where are we? Why are we in the cage? Oh, Little Dragon, you're awake. Little Golden Dragon glanced at him and said, "Nonsense, what, I'm awake. I didn't sleep at all. Really, if we rely on you two fools, we must be sold." Little Egg was a little embarrassed at once. He touched his paws and said stutteringly, Little Golden Dragon, don't be angry. I know I'm wrong. Don't we have to pretend to fall asleep? Isn't it more realistic to really fall asleep? Chapter 1041, Inform Miss Little Golden Dragon snorted coldly. He still put up a stern face, but he somewhat softened his attitude. You guys should be alert to me, this old man is a master of nascent soul stage. I also saw that pervert Feng Yunjing also came. We aren't their opponents when they join forces. If some of us are injured, how should we explain to boss when we go back? Xiaoli frowned immediately upon hearing this. She said anxiously, Miss can't find us. She must be worried about us now. Little Egg heard that Heshi would be worried, and he immediately said with a flat mouth, Will Mom be angry? She is most unhappy that we risked wildly and put ourselves in danger. Mom will definitely ignore us when we go back. Little Golden Dragon also said with a bitter face, the point is that we didn't leave any message to boss before disappearing. It's strange if boss is not worried. It turned out that when these four little ones went to Yangon City to buy things in the morning, but they were ambushed by Li Zhenyu and Yunlan Sect's people in a remote alley. No matter how small the enmity was, they would revenge no matter how. Li Zhenyu wanted to harm Heshi numerous times, and now he even wanted to rob them. How could these little ones let them go easily? So, when Li Zhenyu and the others spilled the medicinal powder, Little Golden Dragon and the others pretended to faint and were carried back to Yunlan Sect by them. But in fact, this kind of knockout drug was not a problem for Little Egg, who had countless kinds of antidote in his body. Although the poison was detoxified, Little Golden Dragon and the others pretended to be unconscious and went to Yunlan Sect along the way. When everyone in Yunlan Sect relaxed their vigilance, they suddenly rushed out and relied on their agile movements to fool those Yunlan Sect's disciples and elders around. Yunlan Sect clearly had more than a dozen gold core stage masters, but they were all flustered. When they nearly caught the little ones, they escaped from their hands. The entire Yunlan Sect was in chaos. During the period, they stole a lot of treasures. Fan Guangshuan was infuriated. It was a pity that happiness breeds sorrow. Just when the little ones were done fooling them and were about to leave Yunlan's sect, an old man riding an aircraft descended from the sky. This old man turned out to be a master at the nascent soul stage. Although Little Egg had good skills, they were already overwhelmed to deal with the dozen of gold core stage martial artists with their endless strange techniques. Facing the nascent soul stage master, how could they fight back? The old man even sprinkled a more advanced knockout drug on them. Even Little Egg and Xiaoli almost fainted when they inhaled it. If Little Egg didn't let the others take the antidote quickly, they would really fall asleep now. However, because they did not have the power to resist, all of them were stuffed into a special cage by the old man. Little Egg originally wanted to let Little Dumb Cow use teleport to escape, but he couldn't do it. Just when the little guys were at a loss, there was a chattering voice from the window. As soon as Xiaoli looked up, she saw a colorful hummingbird resting on the window edge, chirping at her. Xiaoli's eyes suddenly lit up, and she was overjoyed and said, "It's Little Hummingbird." "Great, I have a way to notify Miss." After listening to Xiaoli's instructions, the hummingbird flew out of the window and disappeared into the sky. Chapter 1042, Long Admiration. Little Egg looked at Xiaoli with admiration and said with shining eyes, "Sister Xiaoli, you are so smart and amazing. Why do birds listen to you?" Xiaoli's face blushed slightly, and she whispered, "I hope Little Hummingbird can inform Mississippi." Little Egg suddenly thought of something, and he said anxiously, "But that pervert is here too, how? If Mom comes, she will be bullied by that pervert again?" Xiaoli couldn't help but curiously asked, "What is pervert?" "Pervert means, very very bad. Very wretched and annoying." Little Egg clenched his small fists and said angrily, "Every time that pervert sees Mom, he wants to take advantage of Mom. He is really bad." Xiaoli let out a cry and covered her face. Her clear eyes were full of confusion and worry. "What should we do then?" Little Golden Dragon sneered, "Don't worry, have you forgotten that boss still has your daddy with her? Nangong Yu is amazing. He can definitely teach that pervert Feng Yunjing a lesson. I'm afraid he will leave now." He knew from the very beginning that Xiaoli had the ability to communicate with animals, so when she saw the stop spiritual hummingbird chirping around her non-stop, she immediately followed the spiritual hummingbird. The speed of the spiritual hummingbird was extremely fast, and the speed of Heshi's flying sword had reached its limit. However, within the time of an incense, they caught with the aircraft flying ahead. When Heshi and the others approached the aircraft, Elder Cheng and Feng Yunjing immediately sensed it. Feng Yunjing's eyes looking at Heshi were full of possessiveness. After knowing the true identity of Shiyu, he wanted to get this woman even more. He wanted to own her body and the secret on her. Elder Cheng looked up and down this beautiful young man with unkind eyes. It was this man who let his talented disciple Zhu Que lose power in the King of Hell mansion and even died. It was also the Xingda Hall ran by this man that caused the Doctors' Association to fall into an unprecedented crisis. If he brought this person back to the Doctors' Association, the president and other elders would be very happy. Thinking of this, he took a step forward and slowly smiled. "Mr. Shi, I really admire your name for a long time." Heshian said solemnly with a cold face, "Where are my spiritual pets?" "Your spiritual pets are naturally well received in the cabin." Feng Yunjing intercepted the elder words and said in a low tone, "Shiyu, if you want to see the spiritual pets, come on in this aircraft now." Heshi chuckled, but her eyes were full of murderousness. "Good. Very good. You better not let me see my spiritual pets being hurt." As soon as she finished, she flew into the sky. Instead of rushing toward the aircraft, she pointed the Li Shui sword in the sky and slashed down abruptly. Feng Yunjing had seen Heshi's flying flower sword rain, but he didn't take it seriously. However, when the sword rain fell from the sky, the entire flying boat shook violently. The protective shield that originally covered the flying boat shattered, and the doctors who served Elder Cheng on the flying boat screamed and fell onto the deck. Everything on the flying boat was swaying, and even the things in the cabin slipped out because of the shock. Ah! I'm going to fall. Wah! Stupid cow, move away. Stupid pig head and dumb cow, be careful not to hurt Shaoli. Because of this violent shaking, a huge cage rolled out of the cabin and hit the ship's side heavily. A few familiar voices came out from the cage. Chapter 1043, really bold. When her eyes fell on Little Egg and other little guys, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Little Egg, who was thrown dizzy, grabbed the cage and stood up. Seeing Heshi not far away, he suddenly cried out in surprise, "Moom, you are finally here." Little Golden Dragon and Shaoli also straightened up happily, looked at Heshi, and shouted, "Miss/Boss." Elder Cheng and Feng Yunjing, who had finally stabilized the swaying flying boat on the deck, looked ugly, and they looked at Heshi with scrupulous. Feng Yunjing's gaze became more scorching. His figure suddenly flashed and appeared before Heshi. His presumptuous eyes were full of lust and domineering. He looked up and down Heshi's beautiful face, then he said hoarsely, "I didn't expect your cultivation to improve by a lot after we parted for a few months. Should I be surprised by your amazing talents, or should I be curious about what kind of adventure you have gotten? Within just half a year, how did you turn from a useless person without cultivation into a genius that can rival the gold core stage martial artists?" Heshi squinted slightly, and a hint of shock flashed past his eyes. The meaning of Feng Yunjing's words doesn't seem simple. What does he know? Feng Yunjing laughed and said, "Or, I shouldn't call you Shiyu, but Nalan Heshi." When he said this, Feng Yunjing's eyes were fixed on Heshi's face, wanting to see panic from her face. However, he was disappointed. Heshi slowly sneered, "Feng Yunjing, your news is really good. Since you have found out that my name is Nalan Heshi, do you see who raised Nalan family to the ground?" When Heshi said this, Feng Yunjing shivered instinctively. The man in red clothes that made him surrender and feel fear and despair seemed to appear before him again. The speech prohibition art that made him feel threatened all the time also got into his mind. His face turned gloomy, and he said coldly, "Shiyu, you escaped from my hands in Breaking Spirit Mountain last time, but this time, you are not so lucky. No matter how much your cultivation has improved, you aren't my opponent. This time, I will let you be my woman immediately." Before Feng Yunjing finished his words, he hurriedly back away in shock. But it was too late. He only felt a sharp pain in his shoulder. A piece of meat and bone was sliced off by a sword aura. The white bones and gushing blood made Feng Yunjing's face distorted. He stared at the figure behind Heshi. A tall man appeared behind Heshi from nowhere, then he hugged Heshi into his arms with his long arm. "Nangong Yu." Feng Yunjing gritted his teeth and spit out these three words. Pain, hatred and fear intertwined and surged into his heart, causing his face to turn hideous. The person was naturally Nangong Yu, who had eliminated Yunlan's sect and caught up with Heshi. Nangong Yu hugged Heshi lightly, but his eyes with a hint of smile fell on Feng Yunjing. That smile obviously looked gentle, but it always gave a sense of creepy horror. His slender finger gently stroked Heshi's temple hair as he said slowly, "Feng Yunjing, you are so bold. Ever since the incident in Breaking Spirit Mountain, I didn't settle the account with you, but you come to me yourself. It seems that you really can't wait to die immediately." Chapter 1044, You even have the face to say it, but today's Nangong Yu made him feel a sense of terror from the bottom of his heart. "Nangong Yu, what do you mean? Do you really want to have a fallout with the Feng family?" Feng Yunjing said so, but he quickly retreated back into the flying boat. After standing next to Elder Cheng and confirming that there were two masters of the nascent soul stage on his side, Feng Yunjing breathed a sigh of relief. No matter how strong Nangong Yu was, he couldn't take advantage of it. His tone sounded a little tough. "Nangong Yu, you better think about it carefully. Is it worth it to go against the Feng family for a woman? Isn't our Feng family good enough for you? In the early stage, we Feng family supported you in many ways for developing Iron Kirin. You took over the Yanjing city, but we Feng family didn't condemn you at all. Now I just want a woman from you, hee, then you should just give her to me. Why are you so obsessed with her? You can get so many women in this world, and I can even get hundreds of them to you. Nangongyu sighed lightly, released Heshi, took a step forward, and slowly said, Feng Yunjing, don't force me to kill you now. I have thought of 100 ways to torture you and the Feng family. If I kill you out of anger now, wouldn't it be too boring? Having said that, the sealed dragon sword appeared in his hand. He launched a sword aura toward the flying boat. The flying boat that was staggered by Heshi was slashed in half like tofu. Many of the people on the flying boat were just martial artists from the Foundation Establishment stage and Meridian stage. They cut in half by the sword aura before they managed to escape. At the same time, the giant cage that locked the little ones was also slashed apart. The little ones felt the cold sword aura brushed past their fur. As the flying boat collapsed, they even fell out while screaming non-stop. Heshi moved almost the moment the cage was slashed open, and she quickly appeared where the little ones fell out and kept them back into the void. Both Elder Cheng and Feng Yunjing were caught off guard. They hurriedly released their flying swords to maintain their figures in the air. Elder Cheng furiously said, Nangongyu, what do you want to do? You killed my disciple. I haven't questioned you yet. Now you dare to destroy my flying boat and rob my spiritual pets. You really want to fight the Doctors Association? Nangongyu sneered, your spiritual pets. You even have the face to say it. Feng Yunjing had a deep fear of Nangongyu in his heart at this time, he even couldn't face him head-on. Hearing this, he immediately approached the elder and said, Nangongyu and Shiyu have a very close friendship, so he must be here to take back Shiyu's spiritual pets. Elder Cheng was furious hearing that. He didn't feel the guilt of stealing someone else's spiritual pets at all. Instead, he said righteously, Nangongyu, these little things are things that the Miracle Healer Academy wants. You'd better be smart and let Shiyu summon all her spiritual pets. By the time, the Miracle Healer Academy will naturally benefit her, otherwise, you know what is the consequence of offending the Miracle Healer Academy. Chapter 1045, Ignorant, you nonsense. Elder Cheng's face turned pale as if his sore spot was being poked. He furiously said, You brat, what are you to talk to me like this? I will kill you right now. As soon as the voice fell, he flew into the air and launched an ice arrow at Bai Hu. He used all his power in this shot. Not to mention a martial artist of the Gold Core stage, even a nascent Soul stage martial artist might not be able to escape. Bai Hu looked solemn. He was about to defend with a magic weapon. In a blink of an eye, Nangongyu's figure appeared in front of him. He stretched out his slender jade hand gently and easily caught the flying arrow. Elder Cheng's eyes widened suddenly, and he watched the ice arrow launched by him with most of his power turning into dust in Nangongyu's fingers. The ice arrow could even shock the nascent Soul stage martial artists. Nangongyu, hasn't he advanced to the nascent Soul stage in just a few years? How could it be possible? How could he be so powerful? Elder Cheng swallowed, and he said in a deep voice, Nangongyu, if you really want to protect Shiyu, I can also give you face. As long as Shiyu calls out the little demonic dragon and the little girl, I don't want the other spiritual pets. We each take a step back, what do you think? When Elder Cheng caught a few pets, he discovered that the little magical dragon should have been transformed from a golden flying dragon, and the little girl was the avatar of the nine-tailed silver fox. Both of these were legendary magical beasts that were sought after by countless martial artists. He had to get them no matter how. As for the pink pig and the ugly cow, he had not figured out what species they were, so he didn't care too much about them. Nangongyu smiled lightly, and a thunderball popped out in his palm. Following the movement of his fingers, the thunderball made a crackling sound as it kept thumbing. He fiddled with the thunderball for a while before he shook his head and sighed. People say that people are knife and chopping board, I'm the fish. Fish should of course be more obedient. However, you two are obviously the fish, but why are you still so ignorant? Presumptuous. Elder Cheng was finally fully triggered by Nan Gongyu's arrogant attitude. Nan Gongyu, don't choose the hard way. We have two nascent soul stage martial artists here. Do you think you stand a chance against the two of us? Who is choosing the hard way? Make a move and you know. What's the point of so much nonsense? Nan Gongyu sneered, and he rose up and threw the thunderball toward them. Of course, Feng Yunjing and Elder Cheng didn't take a mere thunderball seriously. Feng Yunjing cast a magic shield and charged toward the thunderball. Hearing the crashing sound, Feng Yunjing only felt a heartbreaking pain in his hand, then the magic shield disappeared without a trace before him. Pala! The rumbling thunder struck Feng Yunjing, making him twitch all over. All his hair stood up one by one, his clothes and skin were scorched, his eyes were rolling and trembling. Chapter 1046, Too easy on him. At the moment of his death, Elder Cheng lowered his magic weapon to hold him and stuffed a few medicinal pills into his mouth. Feng Yunjing's scorched body twitched, and he finally opened his eyes again. He opened his mouth and said with a hoarse voice, his eyes were full of fear, why I can't stop his thunderball. Elder Cheng also had a solemn expression, and he said bitterly, he must have some powerful magic weapon in his hand. The sword in his hand seems to exude a breath of dragon pressure. It must be a powerful magic weapon. It seems that Nan Gongyu really wants to kill us, we can only survive by working together. When I survive, I will definitely let him suffer. Feng Yunjing endured the pain in his body, stood up, gritted his teeth and said, well, I don't believe he can beat us if we join hands. At this time, Nan Gongyu had leisurely released the sealed dragon sword, and formed a gesture. The sealed dragon sword made a terrifying dragon chant before flying straight at Elder Cheng and Feng Yunjing. As soon as the dragon roar came out, the lower creatures advanced and surrendered. Although Feng Yunjing and Elder Cheng were already masters of nascent soul stage and the sealed dragon sword in Nan Gongyu's hands was a counterfeit, they still felt frightening hearing this dragon roar and seeing the oncoming, sealed dragon sword. Elder Cheng's hand holding the magic weapon even kept shaking. He somehow felt that Nan Gongyu's sword was so devastating that he couldn't defend at all. However, apart from defending, he had no other way at all. Nephew Feng, quickly use your strongest defensive magic weapon, otherwise Before Elder Cheng finished speaking, he suddenly felt a strong force coming from behind, then he involuntarily went in the direction of sealed dragon sword. Sealed dragon sword penetrated his chest, but it still flew toward Feng Yunjing without stopping. Elder Cheng opened a pair of bloodshot eyes and looked back in disbelief. What he saw was Feng Yunjing activating a life-saving inscribed teleportation jade slip in his crazy red eyes. The last thing that remained in Elder Cheng's ears was Feng Yunjing's vicious laughter. Elder Cheng, you're old and won't survive for a few years, so please block this sword for me. Don't worry, when I escape, I will revenge for you. You, just die with peace of mind. Ah! Feng Yunjing. Elder Cheng let out an unwilling and heartbreaking scream as he watched Feng Yunjing disappeared in the light. His internal organs and dantian, that had been severely damaged, finally couldn't bear the power of sealed dragon sword and suddenly exploded. Qing Wan's figure flickered, avoiding the splashing flesh and bones of Elder Cheng. With a wave of her green smoke fan, she obtained all Elder Cheng's magic weapons and storage devices. Qing Wan took the thing back to Heshi, glanced at the direction where Feng Yunjing disappeared, and couldn't help but say in depression, I didn't expect to let Feng Yunjing run away again. This is too easy for him. Nan Gongyu retrieved the sealed dragon sword, and sneered, it's true that he ran away, but it may not be too easy for him. Heshi raised her eyebrows and asked incurious, when the inscribed teleportation jade slip was activated just now, you seem to have launched a few spiritual power in his direction. What are those for? Chapter 1047, Separation, Change the Location. Nan Gongyu nodded with a smile, but his face was full of cold evil intentions. Feng Yunjing is now covered with wounds and blood, so if he falls into the magical beast forest like this, how will he end up? Magical beast forest? He was taken aback for a moment, then she couldn't help laughing. It's not just because Feng Yunjing is covered with wounds, right? And his scorched skin, he will definitely become the delicious food that magical beasts are vying for. Nan Gongyu lowered his head and kissed her laughing mouth, but his eyes were slightly dull. However, the magical beast forest can't block message transmission. Feng Yunjing may not be able to die. Moreover, once he reports my strength and the news of Elder Cheng's death to the Feng family and the Doctors Association, I'm afraid the Feng family will start to act. Qing Long also stepped forward and said, Master, I want to report to you that there is news from Xian Wu and Wu Yu that the Feng family seems to have begun to take action in various kingdoms. Especially the edge of the magical beast forest that Iron Kirin, the Feng family's people began to increase. Nan Gongyu's eyes were dim, and he sneered, I'm still afraid that they won't make a move. But, he looked down at Heshi, Sheer, the Feng family has started to act, I must go back to preside over the overall situation, you go back with me, N? Heshi was hesitating, but Xiao Li's whisper came from the void. She was taken aback, then she shook her head and said, Nan Gongyu, I have some things to deal with here. I may need to go to Miracle Healer Academy first. What's more, my current status is quite special. Staying by your side will restrict your actions instead. Nan Gongyu's shining eyes suddenly dimmed, and he put his arm around Heshi and said with a slightly aggrieved voice, Sheer, I haven't seen you for a long time, are you willing to separate from me? Heshi was naturally a little bit reluctant, but the only feeling of parting was dispelled by Nan Gongyu's tone and attitude. She took out a large stack of talisman papers from her arm, handed them to Nan Gongyu's hand, and whispered, These talismans were given to me by a remarkable man in crafting talisman. They contain a voice message talisman, item transfer talisman, and the recording talisman. Even if we are thousands of miles away, it can be delivered, unlike inscribed jade slip that can only convey simple messages. As she said, her face was a little hot, and she lowered her voice, If you miss me, send me a voice message talisman, I will reply to it. If you want to see me or eat my food, I can also send you video recording talisman and item transfer talisman. In short, we won't be not seeing each other for a long time. Nan Gongyu looked down at the girl in his arms. Heshi was always cold and arrogant, but occasionally facing him, she would have the shyness of a little girl. And he really loved Heshi like this. Just thinking that he couldn't be with his loved one, even if he can send a voice message and see a recording talisman, he felt an indescribable depression for not being to hold her in his arms. He couldn't wait to tie her around him so that she couldn't leave even one step. Chapter 1048, Something Happened. Nan Gongyu lowered his head and stabilized the soft pink lips. He didn't bother about the presence of Bai Hu and the others and kissed her passionately, sucking the sweet nectar from her mouth. After a long time, Heshi panted and pushed away the man who was almost out of control, and she looked around. When found that Bai Hu and others had already disappeared, she was relieved. But thinking that the scene just now fell into everyone's eyes, she felt so embarrassed that she wanted to peel off the man's face again. Such a shameless rascal, his face must be thicker than the city wall. Nan Gongyu smiled and grabbed the girl's fist to his chest, then he said hoarsely, As soon as there is danger, activate my avatar inscribed jade slip. No matter what I'm doing, I will come as soon as possible. Do you hear me? Heshi nodded and whispered, So do you, don't let yourself be in danger. If you need any medicinal pill or magic weapon, tell me. I will deliver them to you. Nan Gongyu squeezed her small jaw with burning eyes. His voice was even more hoarse, Sheer is really empathetic. But if I really miss you, can you send yourself to me? Heshi kicked him away and cursed, Get lost. This guy is really getting more and more arrogant. Nan Gongyu let out a low laugh. After the two spoke for a while, they finally had to say goodbye. Nan Gongyu left Bai Hu and Qing Wan, and even Godspeed to Heshi. He just brought Qing Long away. As soon as Nan Gongyu left, the little guys in the void immediately jumped out. Shaoli stood in front of Heshi with a face full of guilt and said in a sobbing tone, "Miss, did Shaoli trouble you that you can't follow the handsome brother back?" Heshi rubbed the little girl's head and smiled loudly, "Nothing, I didn't want to meddle the matter between the Feng family and Nan Gongyu. What he wants is to confront the Feng family openly, that's what I'm good at. I like to do things secretly. So even if I go back with him, I will just go back to Yanjing instead of the magical beast forest. We are still on different ways." Shaoli breathed a sigh of relief, then she realized her crying face, blushed and wiped her nose. Little Egg jumped to Shaoli's side and said with concern, "Sister Shaoli, you just kept crying in the void and you even called brother, what happened?" Shaoli's tears that had just stopped suddenly seemed to surge again. She grabbed Heshi's sleeve and said, "Miss, can you show me the relic of that Elder Cheng?" Heshi certainly wouldn't refuse, and she quickly took out all of Elder Cheng's things. As soon as Shaoli saw one of the jade pendants, she immediately rushed over, grabbed the jade pendant, and then couldn't help crying, "Miss, it's this is Brother Wu Qi's." "Miss, did something happen to Brother Wu Qi?" "Wu," Heshi's face suddenly became serious. She took the jade pendant and took a closer look, but she didn't see anything special. "Are you sure you didn't recognize the wrong thing?" Shaoli nodded with tears and said, "I won't." "Miss, this jade pendant is not special, but the decoration on the jade pendant is made of my own tail hair. It can confuse people at critical moments. I also bought this jade pendant for Brother Wu Qi." "Miss, what should I do? Something must have happened to Brother Wu." Chapter 1049, Miracle Healer Academy. Shaoli's eyes widened immediately. She clutched Heshi's sleeve, and asked hopefully, "Miss, is it true? Is Brother Wu Qi still alive? Can we really find Brother Wu Qi?" Heshi smiled gently, rubbed her little head and said, When did I lie to you?" "Yes." "Shaoli, don't cry anymore." The few little ones also ran over and gathered around Shaoli, eloquently comforting, "With us here, we will definitely be able to help you rescue your brother." Shaoli felt everyone's sincere concern, and the sadness on her face was gradually replaced by a warm smile. But she still couldn't help worrying, "But miss, where are we going to find brother? Isn't it obvious?" Heshi smiled and said, "The place that Elder Cheng wanted to send you guys to. Wu Qi is most likely be there. Where should we find the clue?" The little ones looked at each other, then their eyes lit up as they said in unison, "Miracle Healer Academy." The Miracle Healer Academy was no stranger to every martial artists in the Miluo continent. It was located at the junction of Tiangang Kingdom and Sangming Kingdom, surrounded by mountains and green water, forming a city of its own called Miracle Healer City. Miracle Healer did not belong to any country. No one had jurisdiction over it and no one dared to. But this was different from the Shura city, which was also under no jurisdiction. The Shura city was an underworld full of criminals, while the Miracle Healer city was a prosperous place where geniuses and high-level doctors gathered. It was also known as the most desirable sacred place in the entire Miluo continent. Compared with Miracle Healer City, Miracle Healer Academy was a paradise that everyone dreamed of entering. However, it was almost impossible for 90% of the physicians and martial artists of the Miluo continent to enter the Miracle Healer Academy. Although Miracle Healer Academy organized an admissions assessment every year, there were few people who could stand out in that abnormally difficult admissions assessment. Even that ratio was less than 1 in 10 million. As an academy completely independent of all families and influences, Miracle Healer Academy had all its codes of conduct very fair and just, and it was respected and admired by everyone. No matter how powerful one was, even the sons and daughters of the president of the Doctors Association, if he wasn't capable, he would never be selected. Moreover, although it was called Miracle Healer Academy, it recruits not only doctors, but also talented martial artists and some individuals with special talents. In short, as long as everyone was recommended, they had the opportunity to enter Miracle Healer Academy. Once they were selected into the Miracle Healer Academy, no matter what kind of background they was originally from, even the lowest peasant could rise to the top. As for the family of the students in Miracle Healer Academy, they could obtain supreme glory. Even more than 90% of the 8th-rank doctors and Grandmaster pill refiners of the Miluo continent were from the Miracle Healer Academy, including those elders from the Doctors Association. Chapter 1050, Might as well rob. There was a legend in Miracle Healer Academy that every 10 years, a very small number of excellent students would be sent to the Siam continent to study. Once they had outstanding results of learning and were valued by Siam continent's sects or forces, they could stay in Siam continent exceptionally. Siam continent was a paradise far higher than Miluo continent. For the people of the Miluo continent, there was an out-of-reach existence like a dream. For most martial artists in Miluo continent, there was only one way to enter Siam continent. That was to advance to the soul-splitting stage, accept the Thunder Tribulation, and finally soar to the upper realm. However, was the Thunder Tribulation so easy to pass? Was soul-splitting stage so easy to reach? Was there a single soul-splitting stage martial artist for nearly 1,000 years? However, the Miracle Healer Academy had provided the people of Miluo continent with another way to ascend to the upper realm, that was, to become the well-deserved king of the Miracle Healer Academy. With this opportunity alone, people from Miluo continent rushed to apply for admission to Miracle Healer Academy. Even Heshi, who had always been calm, couldn't help sighing after hearing Qing Wan and Baihu's detailed description of the origin and power of Miracle Healer Academy. They soon came to the Miracle Healer City. But Heshi did not expect that entering the Miracle Healer City actually required a pass. Only doctors above 4th rank and pill refiner above quasi-master level could enter and exit Miracle Healer City freely. All others need to pay crystal stone to enter. 100 crystal stones per person per day. Heshi could not help but frown, Baihu even exclaimed, they might as well rob. Qing Wan glared at Baihu before explaining to Heshi, because there are too many people who want to apply for Miracle Healer Academy or go to Miracle Healer City for treatment every year. If they don't set such rules and regulations, Miracle Healer City will definitely be overcrowded. Qing Wan was the new Zhu Que, who was mainly responsible for support. Although she was not a high-rank doctor like the previous Zhu Que, she knew more about this aspect. Heshi nodded. As soon as she heard this rule, she even wanted to get a doctor's rank to save money. However, after understanding the promotion of doctor ranks, she realized that this was impossible. Because the first doctor rank assessment could only be awarded to 3rd-rank doctor at most, then the promotion of each rank had a time limit. She had to at least wait for a year. Although the fee was expensive, it was really nothing for Heshi who had just won a huge sum of money. Heshi paid the crystal stones for a month for all of them at once. The city guards couldn't help look at them a few more times. After the few people left, the guards were still talking quietly. These people must have come to participate in the assessment of Miracle Healer Academy, right? Otherwise, they won't pay so many crystal stones. TSK, they don't even have a doctor rank, and the youngest one is only at the foundation establishment stage. If they come here to apply for the Miracle Healer Academy's entry assessment, isn't it self-defeating and a waste of crystal stones? Hey, who cares? We only need to have to collect the crystal stones. As soon as Heshi and others entered the door, they felt a strong spiritual power rushing toward them. Gu Lufeng looked at the 4 corners of the city and found that there was a shining light. He couldn't help but sigh, Miracle Healer City is really rich. In such a huge city, there is even a spirit gathering array. No wonder the entrance fee is so expensive. Chapter 1051, Guide. But now Miracle Healer City had set up the spirit gathering array in the whole city. It was conceivable that the crystal stones cost every day was so expensive. No wonder many people were eager for Miracle Healer City and Miracle Healer Academy. As soon as they entered the city, they saw a few boys and girls with plain clothes rushed toward them excitedly. Several seniors, are you new to Miracle Healer City? You must need a guide, right? I have lived in Miracle Healer City for more than a year, so I'm very proficient in all the news here. Senior, I only need 500 crystal stones a day to take you for a tour in the Miracle Healer City, especially the Miracle Healer Academy. I have acquaintances there, and I promise to let you know the important matters of the entrance examination. The babbled voice kept coming in their ears. These boys and girls just watched as she came in with a large amount of crystal stone at the city gate, and they noticed their costumes and cultivation, a few gold core stage, so they must be huge customers. That was why they were particularly eager. She glanced at them, then she looked at a young man with a refreshing face. The clothes on this boy were more worn than the others, and his face was full of tiredness. She would notice him because the spiritual power fluctuations on his body were very soft and pure. Moreover, it was a very pure water attribute spiritual power. He had at least a dual spiritual root qualification. Judging from his spiritual power fluctuations, this person was very suitable to be a doctor. She pointed and said lightly, "It's him." How could you choose Tong Bing? We are much better than him. Yeah, he has only been here in Miracle Healer City for less than 3 months. How can he be compared to us? Heshi's choice puzzled them, making them complain unwillingly. However, as soon as Heshi released her aura, they quickly shut up and ran away as if they were shocked. Only the shabby boy stood there nervously with a flushed face. He said after a long while, My name is Tong Bing, thank you senior for choosing me. Next, Tong Bing took Heshi and others around the Miracle Healer City. Miracle Healer City covered a large area, even larger than Yangon City and Yanjing City. And at this time, the streets were full of hustle and bustle, but the shops on both sides didn't mean to do business. The staffs and bosses were sitting on their seats, waiting for others to inquire about the price. In this Miracle Healer City, the most were medical halls. Almost 1 out of 10 people on the street was a doctor, which would be unimaginable if it was another city. But what made Heshi feel strange was that although there were many people in Miracle Healer City, they all come and go in a hurry. There was a strong sense of contradiction with this Miracle Healer City. She couldn't help but ask Tong Bing, are there so many people here every day? Tong Bing shook his head and said, No, it's not. Only this month is special because in a few days it will be the selection and assessment of Miracle Healer Academy. Many people here are here to participate in the assessment. Usually, because of the expensive entrance fees, there are mostly doctors and high-rank martial artists around, and few ordinary people came in. Chapter 1052, Enchantment. He originally thought that these people paid the sky-high entrance fee to take the selection examination of Miracle Healer Academy, but he didn't expect that they didn't even know the selection examination. Qing Wan sighed with emotion, that's no wonder, every time the Miracle Healer Academy is selected, almost all the martial artists that are expected to be selected from the whole mainland will come to participate in the registration. Son, it would be a coincidence that we were in time. Heshi smiled and did not speak. Tong Bing finally couldn't help but ask in a low voice, Senior, are you not here to participate in the selection? Heshi shook her head, no. But after speaking again, she suddenly smiled slightly, not for the time being, but maybe it's not a bad thing to participate. She said very lightly in the last sentence, but Tong Bing still heard it. This young man, who was elegant and lofty that made him feel a little embarrassed, seemed younger than him, but the self-confidence in the words and the aura of the superior made Tong Bing feel that he was too far away from him. Tong Bing soon took Heshi and others to the location of Miracle Healer Academy. Even if He was mentally prepared, she couldn't help being stunned when she saw the vast endless buildings of the academy and the fluctuation of spiritual power that was almost visible to the naked eye. Moreover, seeing the roof of the college building and the misty mountain from the outside, one could imagine how wonderland inside that was carved and painted. This miracle healer city was very big, but the real city only occupied half of the miracle healer city, and the remaining half of the area was entirely owned by the Miracle Healer Academy. She still wanted to go forward. Tong Bing quickly stopped her and said with a red face, "Senior, there is a very powerful barrier set up outside the Miracle Healer Academy. If there is no inscribed jade slip, ordinary people can't get in." As he said, he felt embarrassed. He lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry, Senior. I'm useless. Unlike the other guides, they have acquaintances in the school, and they can take you to the outside of the academy. I can't." Tong Bing had been very responsible all the way, and the most important thing was that he didn't speak too much along the way. She was still very satisfied with his attitude as she hated strangers babbling in her ears the most. Hearing that, she was not disappointed and angry, but she said in a calm tone, "Enchantment? How powerful is it?" From this point of view, this Miracle Healer Academy was really not an ordinary wealthy. Ordinary sects, such as Yunlan's sect, did not have the financial and material resources to open enchantments anytime and anywhere. The entire Milieu president, and only the 4 major sects, were willing to spend a huge amount of crystal stone to open the mountain guard array at all times. In Miracle Healer City, there was a spirit gathering array in the city, and the entire Miracle Healer Academy had also set up such a powerful enchantment, which clearly showed their wealth. Tong Bing showed a look of awe on his face, and he said in a low voice, "So far, no one has broken into the Miracle Healer Academy." Gu Lufeng frowned and interjected, "Is there a way to get that inscribed jade slip?" Tong Bing nodded. "As long as the martial artists work in the college, they will get a uniform inscribed jade slips. However, most of these inscribed jade slips can only enter specific places in the academy, some can only move around outside. Only the teachers and formal students can really enter the academy." Chapter 1053, The easiest way. The Miracle Healer Academy was so big, there must be a lot of servants and students working in it. It was certainly not a problem to bribe someone to borrow the inscribed jade slip for a day. If it didn't work, they could just steal from someone. Tong Bing was taken aback, shaking his head like a rattle. "Of course not, every inscribed jade slip is engraved with the only spiritual power mark, so only the owner can use it. If you use someone else's inscribed jade slip to enter the academy, you will soon be sensed by the enchantment. You will definitely be punished if you are caught by the academy guards." It seemed that shortcuts really couldn't work. She also just cast her divine sense to test this enchantment, and she found that it was indeed powerful. She stood a little farther and did not feel the presence of the barrier at all, but her divine sense disappeared into the enchantment without a trace. Presumably, with their cultivation, wanting to break through the barrier forcibly was simply impossible. Bai Hu couldn't help frowning and said, "Master, what should we do now? Should I ask Master to come over? He must have a way." "No need." She shook her head, "No need to trouble Nangong Yu, isn't there the easiest way?" Bai Hu was taken aback, blurted out and asked, "What is the solution?" But as soon as Bai Hu asked, he reacted immediately, staring at He with slightly widened eyes. He smiled leisurely with shining phoenix eyes. "It is of course participating in the entrance examination of the Miracle Healer Academy." In fact, He also remembered at this time. In Yangon City, Master Yuehua had mentioned to her about the Miracle Healer Academy and gave her a letter of recommendation. Although the Miracle Healer Academy did not restrict the identity and strength of the martial artists who signed up for the entrance examination, it also needed to verify the identity and origin of the martial artists. Therefore, every martial artist who participated in the entrance examination needed to obtain the recommendation letter of a doctor or high-rank martial artist. He had already forgotten the letter from Master Yuehua, but now it just happened to come in handy. When Bai Hu and Gu Lufeng heard it, they looked at each other and nodded again and again. Qing Wan smiled even more. Mister, with your strength, it is definitely easy to pass the assessment. He didn't say anything yet, but Tong Bing's eyes widened in shock. Easy to pass the assessment. Who is this young man? Are they dreaming or talking big? No matter what Tong Bing thought, since He decided to participate in the entrance examination, she didn't hesitate anymore. She quickly asked Gu Lufeng to take Master Yuehua's recommendation letter to help her register for the examination. Then, they went to find an inn to settle down first, but there wasn't any available room in the several inns they went to. No way. After all, this is the peak period for the examination of the Miracle Healer Academy. The entire Miracle Healer city was full of martial artists taking the examination, and the inn had long been in short supply. Bai Hu looked around and pointed to a luxuriously decorated building not far away and said, "This is also an inn, right? Why don't we go there to have a look?" Tong Bing hurriedly said nervously, "Then, there is Wangyue Pavilion, it is indeed an inn. But, it is also the most expensive place in Miracle Healer City. The fee for a room is 10,000 crystal stones per day. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.